Hello again guys, another interesting quadcopter sort of related video for you today. This is the L6 from LiDi RC. From what I understand, there's a few different versions of this, and I believe the one that I've got here is the 5.8 GHz FPV version. Let's open it up and check it out. I said quadcopter earlier, obviously I meant hexacopter. Like I said, it was kind of quadcopter. It's not quadcopter, it's hexacopter. Moving on. So here is the hex itself. Really interesting design. You have two white props on the front. They're all three-bladed props, black props all around the back. Moving on to the rest of the box though. We've got some prop guards that are never gonna see the light of day. Here's your transmitter. Sticks feel pretty good. And these two little knobbies up here don't actually do anything. Over here you've got a button for camera and one button for flip, and a little plug in the top, which I would assume is for the Fpv monitor. Speaking of the Fpv monitor, there you go. Relatively small screen with a little plug sticking out of it. I don't see any mounting hardware immediately. Let's keep looking. And down underneath there were a couple of extra things. You've got the instruction manual. Here you can see all the things the transmitter does. Photo and video, power light, left hand for acceleration and headless mode, 3D inversion, otherwise known as flipping, control lever, tuning. There's also some info in here about the wireless version if you have the Wi-Fi only version, but as you saw here, this is the FPV version with 5.8 GHz, so we're gonna skip that. There was a little bundle underneath, a little package that had this. This should be the Fpv Monitor Mount, so you can hook it up to the controller. And that seemed to go on pretty nicely. A little interesting, it doesn't actually screw into place. That's okay. And then this part here should slide up, so it should fit right in there. So that is your sort of completed transmitter. That's what you should expect it to look like. And you're just gonna plug this in right here when you want to use it. And of course, I don't have batteries in here quite yet. And the screen does not tilt at this point, in case you're curious. In the other little bag, you've got 4 spare props, a bunch of screws, screwdriver, and a USB charging cable. And then most importantly, the hexacopter itself. But I'm really liking the way these 3-bladed props look. On the bottom, you have your FPV camera. The camera itself looks an awful lot like most of the other cameras I've seen, except we do have this big antenna on it. Down inside, I had a lot of trouble getting that out, but here's the battery. It's a 3.7 volt, 800 milliamp hour 30C battery with a JST connector. And it looks like to actually use it, you're going to slide the battery back in, and then the plug is actually inside here, in the side. So you're gonna have to figure out a way to sort of munge the plug in there. Then once you've got the battery in, there's an on-off switch on the back. Very, very nice. So there you go. There's your LEDs. You have green in the back and white in the front. On top, there's not a whole lot, but as you can see, it is putting out a pretty decent amount of light, but just don't expect to be able to see it from the top if you're out flying at night or anything. The transmitter is gonna need 4 AA batteries, and at this point, let's power everything up, see if we can get it working. So we turn the transmitter on. See, we have a red LED there. The screen powers on, it's blue. Turn on the hexacopter, and it did pair up. And it says card error. That's because I don't have a card inside of it, do I? No, it did not have a card in there. And I don't see a card reader or a microSD card or anything in here. And as far as what it looks like from the camera, in case you're curious, there's a bit of weird FPV interference. So it seems to be cutting out an awful lot, but there you go. There's just a very rough sample, and it's very rough looking, but that's what it looks like, what I look like through it. So far, the video quality does not look bad, and it looks like the lens may actually be capable of tilting at least a little bit. Yeah, the lens on the front of this will actually tilt up and down, so that's really, really nice. So if you're flying really, really fast, you'd want to have it aiming up so you could get a little bit of a view. Of course, in doing that, you can see the props are now in the shot. Just keep that in mind, I suppose. So at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to run it through a battery. By that I mean I'm going to turn it on, just kind of let it run like this, and just in case you're curious what it sounds like, that's at the loudest. So it's not hugely loud, but it is a little bit loud. So I'm gonna let it run through a battery one full time, then we'll take it out and fly it. All right, got a little bit of wind out here, but we're out with the L6, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. And we do have video recording now. All right, so here's our first rate, second rate, third rate, back to first rate. So the yaw rate does not appear to change. The pitch in the first rate is very minimal, so not a huge amount, as you might expect. Let's go ahead and do it a second rate so I can move. Like I said, there's a little bit of wind, and that little bit of yaw rate means that it's gonna take a little while to turn. Let's take a look at the video very quickly. Should be 720p video. I did test it briefly indoors, and the video looked pretty good inside. Let's just see how stable it is. You can see it in the FPV monitor here. The angle of the lens is adjustable, but it looks nice and stable. It's just, I've got it up a little bit high, so you're seeing the props in it. Not bad though. I did have one problem with this in that I wasn't able to get the card to actually stay inside of the camera. So I've got some tape holding it in at the moment, but it appears to be working. It is recording, so that's good. Let's go to the high rate. So this is our high rate. We've got a decent amount of pitch now, but the yaw rate still limits it a lot. But it is quite maneuverable, quite responsive, so that's good. Let's try to do a flip if we can. To do a flip, you have to actually hold the button and then press in the direction you want to go. So, I mean, those flips are actually quite nice for a Hex. There's a back flip. Yeah, very responsive. I like this a lot, actually. And then there's also Headless Mode, which we get to, I think, by pressing the left stick in. So now we're in Headless Mode. Yep, that's definitely getting the job done. Headless. There's also a one key return you get to by pressing the right stick down. There you go, one key returning. Again, getting the job done. So far, aside from the weird little issue I have with not being able to get the card to stay in there, this is a very impressive one. I'll just be curious to see how the battery life is. I think the last time I tried it, it was over 6 minutes, which is not bad at all. Apologies for the wind, it's very windy out here. But this is dealing with the wind pretty nicely. Not bad at all. I also had some earlier issues with interference, but it looks like those have been resolved as well. And I mean, we are still getting FPV out of this. I actually took a second and just angled the camera back down. Helps when you crash into a tree. But there you go. Maybe we'll switch back over to the video now that we've moved the camera down just a little bit. So here's some video. The wind is blowing, so that's going to throw it off just a bit. But it looks stable in the Fpv monitor. I mean, it looks surprisingly stable. It just does not have a terribly fast yaw rate. So I mean, it's got a huge amount of pitch, but there's not a huge amount you can do with it, just because it is limited by that yaw rate. But for flyability, it's not bad. Let's do a few more flips. There you go. I like them. Nice flips, nice headless mode. Seems to be a pretty decent 720p camera. Just not a great yaw rate. If the yaw rate changed with the pitch, it would be great. So if like in third rate we had a really fast yaw rate, or decently fast, that'd be nice, but it's definitely usable. So I was able to record 4 minutes of video there without any real problems. But I mean, the video looks smooth, it looks stable on the FPV monitor, if you can see that. The wind is kind of taking it away. We'll bring it back down some. Yeah, this is very maneuverable. Just not a great yaw rate. I'm thinking the range may not be so good though because of the FPV, because I got it out there a little bit farther and it seemed like it had a dropout. That's probably our battery going, 6.5 minutes. And you know what, to go ahead and wrap it up, all in all, I really like this. You probably couldn't tell from the indoor look at it, but it's very green. It's got like a very rich green color to it, metallic green. Got a decent amount of power, it's got a pretty decent camera on it. The only thing really limiting it, in my opinion, is that yaw rate. So you can find a link to where you can pick one of these up if you're interested down in the description. Thanks to GearBest for sending this out for me to review. Thanks to you guys for watching. Remember to leave a like below if you liked it, subscribe to receive more when they become available, and we'll see you again next time.